The disappearance of Robert Durst, the millionaire who wouldn't stay quiet. In January of 1982, a woman vanished from a quiet home in South Salem, New York. There were no signs of forced entry, no ransom demand, no confirmed struggle visible to neighbors. Her name was Kathy Durst. Her husband was Robert Durst. He came from one of New York's wealthiest real estate families. Money was not a problem in that household. Silence would become the problem. Kathy was 29 years old, a medical student, ambitious, independent. Friends later described tension in the marriage, arguments, reports of controlling behavior. On the night she disappeared, January 31st, 1982, she had attended a dinner party with Robert. Witnesses described visible friction between them. At some point during the evening, they left together. That was the last confirmed time she was seen. Robert would later claim that he put her on a train into Manhattan the next morning. He said she wanted to return to her apartment in the city, but there was no confirmed evidence that she boarded a train, no ticket record definitively placing her there, no verified sighting after that night. Her absence was not immediately treated as homicide. Adults sometimes leave, marriages sometimes fracture, but friends grew concerned quickly. Kathy had upcoming exams, responsibilities, a life trajectory that did not align with sudden disappearance. Investigators interviewed Robert. He appeared calm, controlled, measured. He repeated his version consistently. She left. She went to Manhattan. He did not know what happened after. Over time, inconsistencies began surfacing. Statements about timing shifted slightly. Details about phone calls changed, but nothing concrete enough to produce an arrest in 1982. And wealth matters. It does not guarantee innocence, but it does buy time. Legal counsel, controlled narrative, patience. Kathy was declared legally dead years later, but her body was never found. The disappearance remained unresolved. For nearly 2 decades, it sat quietly until another death connected back to the same man. In December 2000, in Los Angeles, a woman named Susan Berman was found shot in her home, execution style, a single bullet to the back of the head. Susan had been a longtime friend of Robert Durst. She had reportedly helped manage media attention around Kathy's disappearance years earlier. The timing of her murder was notable. Los Angeles authorities had reopened inquiry into Kathy's disappearance. Susan was scheduled to speak with investigators. Then she was killed. The connection tightened scrutiny. Durst denied involvement, but the pattern was forming. Missing wife, close friend executed before police interview. Still, no charges were filed against him for those deaths at that time. The story might have remained fragmented if not for a third event. In 2001, in Galveston, police arrested a mute woman named Dorothy Siner. But Dorothy was Robert Durst in disguise. He had been living in a modest apartment under that alias. In that same apartment complex, a neighbor named Morris Black was found dismembered, his body parts placed in garbage bags and scattered into Galveston Bay. Durst admitted to cutting up the body, but he claimed self-defense. He said Morris Black had confronted him, that a struggle ensued, that he panicked, and that the dismemberment was fear-driven, not murderous. Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the unsettling pattern becomes clearer. A wife disappears, a friend is shot, a neighbor is dismembered, and in each instance, Robert Durst stands at the center. Yet in 2003, he was acquitted of murder in Texas. The jury accepted the self-defense argument. The admission of dismemberment did not produce a conviction. The man who admitted cutting up a body walked free. The pattern did not disappear, it deepened. Durst returned to New York, continued living under public suspicion, but not conviction. Then came the documentary. In 2015, HBO aired The Jinx, a series examining Durst's life and the suspicious deaths surrounding him. Filmmakers interviewed him extensively. He appeared composed, even amused at times. But during filming, after what he believed was the end of an interview, he entered a bathroom still wearing a live microphone. He muttered words that would echo worldwide. "They're all dead, of course." The audio was debated, interpreted, parsed, but its impact was immediate. The timing of his arrest was equally striking. On the eve of the documentary's final episode airing, authorities arrested Robert Durst in New Orleans. He was later extradited to face charges related to Susan Berman's murder in Los Angeles. After decades of evasion, the legal pressure finally crystallized. But rewind to 1982, to South Salem, to a young medical student who vanished. The story does not begin with a confession. It begins with absence, a husband's calm demeanor, a family's wealth, a missing woman, and silence stretching across decades. After the 1982 disappearance of Kathy Durst in South Salem, investigators struggled with absence. No body, no crime scene, no clear forensic anchor. But absence does not erase suspicion. Friends of Kathy later described a marriage marked by volatility, arguments, reports of physical altercations, claims that she had once sought medical treatment for injuries allegedly inflicted by her husband. None of those claims alone produced criminal charges at the time, and Robert Durst's family resources allowed for controlled legal navigation. Over the next 18 years, the case remained technically open but inactive. Kathy was eventually declared legally dead in 2017, decades after her disappearance. But long before that declaration, another death reactivated scrutiny. In December 2000, in Los Angeles, a woman named Susan Berman was found shot in her home, execution style, a single bullet to the back of the head. Susan had been a longtime friend of Robert Durst. She had reportedly helped manage media attention around Kathy's disappearance years earlier. The timing of her murder was notable. Los Angeles authorities had reopened inquiry into Kathy's disappearance. Susan was scheduled to speak with investigators. Then she was killed.
When New York investigators reopened aspects of the 1982 case in 2000, Susan was reportedly scheduled to speak with them. Then she was killed. Los Angeles police suspected a targeted execution. A handwritten note had been mailed to police shortly before the body was discovered, containing Berman's address. The note's handwriting would later become a key piece of forensic evidence. Investigators eventually compared that note to a letter Durst had written years earlier. The similarities became central to prosecution decades later. At the time of Berman's death, however, Durst was not immediately charged. He denied involvement. He maintained distance from the crime scene, but the pattern, disappearance of spouse, execution of close friend, tightened around him. Then came Texas. In 2001, Durst moved to Galveston under the alias Dorothy Signer. He disguised himself as a woman, paid rent in cash, avoided close relationships. His neighbor in the apartment complex was Morris Black. In September 2001, Black vanished. Days later, body parts were discovered floating in Galveston Bay. The torso was found first, then additional remains in trash bags. The head was never recovered. Durst was arrested. He admitted to shooting Morris Black. He admitted to dismembering the body, but he claimed self-defense. He said Black had discovered his true identity and confronted him, that a struggle ensued over a gun, that the firearm discharged accidentally, and that panic led him to cut up the body. Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the emotional center shifts from shock to pattern recognition. A missing wife, a close friend executed, a neighbor dismembered. In each case, Robert Durst is present, But in 2003, a Texas jury acquitted him of murder. The defense emphasized lack of premeditation evidence, focused on self-defense, argued that dismemberment, though grotesque, did not prove initial intent to kill. He walked free. The acquittal stunned observers. The man who admitted cutting up a body avoided prison for murder. He was later convicted only of bail jumping related to the case. He served minimal time. Then he returned to relative obscurity. But the cases never fully dissipated. Investigators in New York continued reviewing Kathy's disappearance. Los Angeles detectives preserved evidence in the Berman case. Handwriting analysis matured. DNA testing advanced. Time, in some cases, strengthens forensic capability rather than weakens it. Then came the documentary. The Jinx aired in 2015. Filmmakers had spent years interviewing Durst. He participated willingly, perhaps believing he could outmaneuver narrative. During the final episode, footage captured him entering a bathroom after an interview, still wearing a live microphone. He muttered phrases interpreted as confession. "They're all dead, of course. What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course." Durst later claimed he was speaking hypothetically, but the audio reignited law enforcement urgency. On March 14, 2015, he was arrested in New Orleans. This time, charges centered on the 2000 murder of Susan Berman. The trial moved to trial years later. Handwriting analysis linked him to the note mailed to police. Circumstantial evidence connected motive to preventing her from speaking with investigators. In 2021, he was convicted of Berman's murder in Los Angeles. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. He died in custody in 2022. But rewind again to 1982, because the center of the pattern remains Kathy. Her body has never been found. No definitive crime scene has been located. No murder conviction was obtained for her disappearance. The legal resolution came through the Berman case, but the emotional origin rests in South Salem. A young woman pursuing medical education, a marriage strained, a husband with wealth and composure, and a disappearance that began everything. For decades, Robert Durst existed in a strange space between suspicion and consequence. The pattern surrounding him was undeniable. A missing wife in South Salem, a close friend executed in Los Angeles, a neighbor dismembered in Galveston. But patterns do not automatically translate to convictions. Durst's family wealth insulated him early. The Durst organization was one of New York's most powerful real estate empires. Money does not erase evidence, but it shapes timelines. It buys attorneys capable of dismantling prosecution narratives. It funds private investigators. It allows controlled communication with media. In 1982, when Kathy vanished, investigative technology was limited. No cell phone records, no widespread surveillance cameras, no digital footprints. The absence of a body complicated prosecution. Without a confirmed crime scene, suspicion floats without anchor. Friends described Kathy as fearful at times. They reported that she had once told them she feared for her safety. But fear reported to friends is not the same as sworn testimony, and once she was gone, her voice disappeared with her. Durst maintained calm publicly. He did not display overt panic. He did not flee immediately. He allowed the disappearance to settle into ambiguity. That composure became part of his image, controlled, detached, measured. In the Berman case, motive sharpened. Susan Berman had served as a kind of informal spokesperson years earlier. When renewed scrutiny into Kathy's disappearance surfaced in 2000, Susan was positioned to speak. Her execution-style killing suggested silencing. The handwritten note mailed to police with her address was crucial. Handwriting analysts later testified that the cadaver note matched Durst's writing. Misspellings aligned, letter formations aligned. It became one of the strongest physical anchors in the decades-long saga. But even then, it took years to assemble prosecutable structure. Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the unsettling element is patience, not impulsive rage, but patient survival.
Durst did not unravel quickly. He adjusted identities, moved states, adopted disguises. In Texas, he lived as a woman under an alias, paid rent in cash, maintained low profile. The dismemberment of Morris Black was brutal, but even that did not end his freedom immediately. In court, his defense reframed the narrative. They emphasized lack of direct proof of premeditation. They argued panic. They leaned into the idea that shocking behavior after death does not prove intent before it. The jury agreed. Acquittal. That moment reinforced a public perception he could evade consequence. But evasion requires vigilance, and vigilance eventually fatigues. The documentary The Jinx altered the landscape, not because it introduced new forensic evidence immediately, but because it reshaped public awareness. It forced long-ignored patterns into mainstream attention. Durst's decision to participate remains psychologically intriguing. Why agree to extended interviews about unresolved murders? Confidence? Narcissism? Belief in intellectual superiority? Perhaps he believed narrative control remained possible. The bathroom microphone moment became cultural shorthand. A man alone, muttering into what he thought was privacy, interpreted by millions. Whether the statement constituted direct confession legally was debated, but its psychological impact was enormous. Within hours of the final episode airing, law enforcement arrested him. The timing reinforced the sense of long-awaited consequence. At trial in Los Angeles for Susan Berman's murder, prosecutors laid out the arc carefully. Motive: prevent testimony that could harm him in the reopened Kathy investigation. Means: access and connection. Evidence: handwriting, witness accounts, timeline consistency. After decades of ambiguity, the structure solidified. He was convicted in 2021, sentenced to life imprisonment. He died in custody in early 2022. Legally, that closed one chapter, but it did not close the original one. Kathy Durst disappeared in 1982 from South Salem. Her body has never been recovered. No murder conviction was ever secured in connection with her disappearance. The pattern begins with her and ends without formal resolution for her case. That unresolved origin gives the story its weight, because the trajectory of the next 40 years flows outward from that first absence. Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the unsettling element is not only violence, it is insulation. For decades, Durst existed inside a space shaped by wealth and legal precision. Money did not erase evidence, but it slowed it. It provided layers between suspicion and consequence. He moved states, adopted aliases, survived trial, maintained composure. In the Texas case, he admitted to dismembering a body and was acquitted of murder. That verdict reinforced public perception that he could survive anything. But legal systems move unevenly, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly. The handwritten cadaver note in the Berman case became the hinge. Misspellings consistent with his earlier writing, structure consistent. The decision to mail her address to police became self-incriminating evidence decades later. And then there was the microphone moment, the bathroom, the muttered words. Whether interpreted as confession or fragmented thought, it shifted momentum. Public attention intensified, prosecutors accelerated, and the arc bent toward conviction.
But remove the documentary, remove the microphone, and the pattern remains. A wife disappears, a confidant is executed, a neighbor is dismembered. In each case, proximity aligns with Durst. The narrative is less about sudden eruption and more about endurance. How long can ambiguity survive without anchor? How long can suspicion remain circumstantial before hardening into proof? The Durst story became a cultural study in privilege, patience, and forensic evolution. In 1982, digital trails were rare. By 2021, handwriting analysis, timeline reconstruction, and long-preserved evidence created a cumulative structure strong enough to convict. Time does not always weaken cases. Sometimes it refines them. For the families connected to these deaths, resolution is uneven. Susan Berman's case reached verdict. Morris Black's death resulted in acquittal. Kathy Durst's disappearance remains unresolved legally, though widely believed by investigators to have been homicide. The wooded property in South Salem remains. The apartment complex in Galveston still stands. The Los Angeles home where Berman was killed exists within ordinary city rhythm. But those spaces carry memory, not visibly, but historically. When the lights go out and houses settle into silence, the Robert Durst case lingers because it challenges a simple expectation: that wealth guarantees safety, that silence protects indefinitely, that time erases suspicion. It does not. It delays, and sometimes delay stretches across decades. But eventually, patterns surface, even if they do not close every chapter. Thank you for listening.